Welcome back to the Vancouver Resource Investment Conference.
How y'all doing today? How y'all feeling about this market?
Wonderful.
Okay, let's start here, Mike.
Very excited. It's incredible. It's great to see this room here. So thank you everyone who came out early on a Sunday morning to take this all in. So this is wonderful.
Okay. How about you, Rob?
Yeah, it's funny listening to the last panel to where my thoughts are and how differing the views, and maybe that is the age difference of being much more excited about what's ahead of us and scared of what's happening in the world. So definitely I'm more bullish than the last group.
Okay. How about you, Sean?
Good morning. Nice to see everybody here. I'm always a closet pessimist. And so I'm always cautiously optimistic, and that's how I approach this morning.
Okay, yeah, thanks for sharing that. So Rick Rule consistently states that if he had only invested his money in the top 4 to 5 entrepreneurs, that he would have made 10x his money and had to work 10% as hard. Okay, so Jay Martin views you three as the next generation of billion-dollar company founders and such. And so he highlights a few things here I want to cover. So Michael Connert here started Visa Silver in 2017 by financing the company's expenses and salaries on a personal credit card. Today, the company is valued at $3 billion and on pace to become the world's largest silver mine. We also have Rob Eckford, alongside mining legends Frank Giustra and others, was a co-founder of RS Mining and led the company's complex financings, acquisitions, and major merger that helped scale into a meaningful Colombia-focused gold producer. RS Mining today is valued at over $5 billion. So Rob has recently launched his new company, Rua Gold, an advanced gold exploration company in New Zealand. Then we have Sean here. So Sean took the reins of Dolly Varden Silver in 2020 at a valuation of $20 million. Today, post-merger with Contango, that company is worth $1.2 billion. So you all have been putting your work in. What's your perspective on this bull market rally? Let's start with Mike.
Thanks, Daryl. So, I think that, the early innings are done. I think there's still a lot of room to go here. We seem to be in this phase of price discovery for gold, and I think that's something we're starting to see picked up in the mainstream. When we see it started to get picked up in the mainstream, it means that we're no longer early. So a lot of the bets that we placed last year, the year before, those were early bets, and they were rewarded this last 18, 24 months. So going forward, I think we've seen, let's say, the easy money made. We have to be a little bit more selective, but I do think that, until the core reasons, the foundational reasons why gold is outperforming other asset classes is solved, and add silver into that as well, until the supply deficit in silver is solved, until the growing demand case can be solved with oncoming silver production, and until governments stop being so reckless with debt, I don't see the drivers of this bull market falling away. Of course, there's going to be cyclicality in that. Of course, there's going to be drawdowns, even up to 50%, 30%. But I think structurally, this bull market is intact and going up and to the right.
Okay, thanks for sharing that. How about you, Rob? What's your perspective on this bull market?
Yeah, I jumped into gold from copper 10 years ago with Frank Giustra and Neil Woodger when we started Lear Gold, and we've built a few companies since then. I think it's still early innings. You still get, in December, you get huge fund managers in New York, Goldman Sachs, starting to tell people to increase allocation into gold and gold equities. That's just December last year, and people haven't even rebalanced. So I've never had a cab driver in any of my cities I go and visit on marketing start telling me about mining stocks. That's when you're at the peak of the boom, when your cab driver is telling you to buy a mining stock. Right now, they're all still telling you to buy tech stocks. So I think we're still very early innings. The producers are making the good producers are making a 70% EBITDA margin on their revenues. The explorers are still undervalued out there, and hence why there's an opportunity to start new companies, because there is so much more money to be made in this market, and we're all in this silo watching it for the last few years on this run-up. But there's going to be new people enter the market, and when VRIC is actually sold out and Jay can't let anyone else in, that's when we might be getting frothy. But right now, early innings in my view.
Okay, thank you. How about you, Sean?
Based on my experience, I started in this business in 2004. And the way I think about markets is there's 3 phases. The first phase is nobody believes. The second phase is this for real? And the last phase is everybody's a genius. And there's parts of me that is getting the sense this last couple of days. We had another conference that was started on Friday. A lot of people are in town, 10,000 people attending this conference. There are some people that are feeling like geniuses because we had such an epic run in 2025. Now, having said that, though, when you look at some of the numbers and you look at some of the metrics and you look at some of the signs and signals of the peak of a bull market, we're not there. So I think we're in phase 2. We're way beyond nobody believes. This is for real, but not everybody is a genius.
Okay, thanks for sharing that. So I have 4 questions about each of your companies, okay? And I'm just gonna ask the questions and then just have you go each one by one. Okay, so for your company, what is the next important milestone, the next unanswered question, and how do you plan to increase the value of your business from its current state? How long will it take? How much money will it cost to complete or find out? And how much money do you have in the treasury? So this is part of the due diligence process of our commodity university. And so let's go ahead and start with you, Mike.
So for us, we're a development company. We're building the largest single asset silver primary producer in the world. And in order to do that, of course, we need money, we need permits, and we need the technical team to deliver that. So the 3 big unanswered questions had to do with funding, which you mentioned, our technical capabilities. We've solved that with Simon Smirlik, our Chief Operating Officer. This will be his 41st mine build around the world. He's truly one of the world's top mine builders, and he's driving the project forward. And the point around money, last year we raised we have over $400 million, we raised $300 million in a bond issuance. And maybe just drawing back to what we were talking about earlier in terms of where we are in the cycle, when we were marketing the bond issuance, this was done to very large, sophisticated investors globally. Very few of these groups in the 70 meetings that we did in the Wallcross had dedicated mining talent, dedicated mining analysts, associates, et cetera. That also shows how early we are in the cycle. It was massively oversubscribed, but these kind of generalist funds that really love this convertible bond product really didn't have the infrastructure and the talent to make these investments yet. So when you start to see that, when you see companies doing billion-dollar equity deals, billion-dollar convert deals for mining, for exploration, for development, I think that's when we'll start to see signs that we're further up in the market in terms of its maturity. And so for us, the last unanswered question really has to do with permits. So we're funded, we have the feasibility in hand, we have the team that can build this project. We expect to get our permits in Mexico very shortly this year in 2026. And the reason we think that we'll get them in a relatively short period of time is because our project, despite being what will be the world's largest single asset silver primary producer, really is entirely underground and is built on historic mining there. So it's very easy to permit in Mexico. So we think that unanswered question will be solved shortly. And of course, we're very well funded to achieve that. Our CapEx is about half of our cash balance right now. So we have a very strong buffer.
Okay, thanks for sharing that. All right, Rob, Rule of Gold.
Yeah, we're at a very simple value proposition right now. We actually very timely sitting here. We just completed, we didn't complete. We're fully subscribed on a financing that will close on Wednesday. We went out for 25 million. We ended up with a book of over 60, and we're closing on 33. So we've got a good runway of cash flow right now. We've got a lot of interest in the stock, and a lot of it's because of our assets, a lot of it's because of the team, and a lot of it's because of the jurisdiction. So because New Zealand's not a known jurisdiction, the reason we're so focused there, and this is now my third company I'm building from scratch, New Zealand was really attractive because the permitting there takes 6 months. It's the quickest permitting in the world, and people don't think of mining in New Zealand. And as Rick said, if there's a contrarian opportunity, that's where you make money. And so we've gone into New Zealand. We've got these 2 amazing land packages right there. We're funded now. And the 2 value drivers that we're executing on is one on the South Island. We've already got to start a resource. We're going to take advantage of what we have over our peers, which is really fast permitting, and we're going to go through that permitting phase and aim to be fully permitted by early 2027. And then on the North Island, we're just getting our drill permits now. We're adjacent to one of Oceanic Gold's major projects that they've just got permitted. And again, that was a project that got permitted in 6 months under this fast-track regime. And we're going to be drilling this undrilled, untested epithermal that has never seen a drill hole before. And these are few and far between, let alone in a beautiful jurisdiction like New Zealand. So a lot of value catalysts to come that we're now fully funded for.
Okay, thanks for sharing that. And Sean, you released some big news recently with Contango and such. So could you speak to that? What's the future of Dolly Varden? And then also answer the question.
Yeah, the future. There's a lot of special people that are here today. There's one that's really particularly special to me. Dante, can you raise your hand? There he is. So my 16-year-old's here. And the reason I mention that is I've been in this business for 20 years, and I've been studying companies. And something that I learned that fascinated me a few years ago is there's a company called Hecla Mining, and they've been in business for 135 years. One of the longest listed companies on the New York Stock Exchange. What other business can you do that in? You know, if you think about the companies that dominate business today, they weren't around 30 years ago. But mining, you can do that. And so what we're doing at Dolly Varden, we started as this little idea, this little toy silver mine on a mountain in BC, small market cap, nobody cared. And we slowly, systematically built up. First through discovery, then through acquisition, then through capital. And what we've now done is we've bought the world's richest open pit gold mine on the planet, and it's in a safe jurisdiction. So what we're creating is something that I hope, is here 100 years from now, because that's how we're planning in BC. We're in Canada. The Golden Triangle is what the feds are focused on, and there's a lot of minerals there in terms of the density. There's no other place on the planet. You've got good partnerships with First Nations, you've got infrastructure. So we announced a merger on December the 8th. We're gonna have, and this is all in US dollars, $100 million of cash flow. We have that today. We've got $100 million in the bank. We've got a pipeline. And for everybody that's here, if you want precious metals and you care about jurisdiction, we're in Alaska and we're in Northwest BC. My goal, we're gonna list at about $1 billion market cap US. The stock's liquid, it trades. We've got experience. Our CEO, Rick, was the founder of Nova Gold, the founder of Trilogy. He's now leading the Contango Silver and Gold. And this is a company, I've described it as a rocket ship. The production, the pipeline, and the goal is to keep growing. So, we've got a booth. If you want to learn more, come and talk to us, but it's simple. If you like silver, if you like gold, if you care about safe jurisdictions, this is your name. I think it's going to be the next Hecla, and we're going to keep growing it, and we really want to dominate the North. Okay,
thanks for sharing that. So with the time we have left, I'm curious, in your perspective, any wisdom that you have for any newer investors in the room. And so we had over 8,000 attendees sign up. And so I'm sure there's some new investors in the room. And so I'm curious in your perspective on what they should be looking for. Go ahead, Mike.
Sean and I were talking about how we got started in the industry before we came on stage, and I remember this room very well. I was at a very young age interested in gold and silver. I didn't know that this market really existed here until I was in my early 20s, at which point I started coming to these conferences. And actually another peak of the market indicator, when Rick Rule has a group of people following him to the washroom after his presentation asking about stocks, that's an indicator. Because when I actually started in the industry, it was at the very top, and I remember seeing that. Haven't seen that yet, so that's good. But being in these rooms, I was always surprised when I first came here how accessible everybody was, how you could just go and talk to any CEO of a company. They're glad to talk to you. You don't have to have all the right questions. You just have to be curious. And to add to that, how accessible all these companies are. So online and social media. So it's really easy to get a sense of who the principals are behind the businesses that you're investing in. And this is a great place to start. So just having that curiosity and going to talk to the management teams.
Yeah, I must actually admit this is my first VRIC. So I've never been here before and was definitely not hanging around here in my 20s. I came up a little bit of a different way through mining. I'm a finance guy, but I've spent most of my career living on mine sites around the world, through the DRC, Colombia, Mexico, Brazil. And one thing I always took on early, and where Jay and I really align, is surround yourself by really good people. So Neil Woodger was my CEO on the last couple of companies. I learned a huge amount of how to structure companies, execute on M&A, the capital market side of things. Now our chairman is Oliver Lennox King. All these guys are very well gray-haired. Oliver's in his 70s, Neil's in his 80s. They're all still going full ball. But what it comes back to is exactly what Rick said. If he had put all of his time into the right management teams, he would have had 10% of the headaches and he would have had 10x on the returns. And so it's the same for any investor out there. Find people that have done it before. Don't find the new guys that you have no idea who the management teams are. If people have executed before, they care about their reputations, and so those are the right two people to get behind. And similarly, for any young person wanting to work in the space, it's the same story. Don't try and jump into a CEO position straight in your 20s because you don't know what you're doing. Go up, learn the industry, learn what to do, try and find mentors, and there's plenty of old women and men that will be willing to take on the young generation and get the next generation of mining companies built.
Thank you. And then Sean, any last words of wisdom as we wrap this one up?
Yeah, so, the question is, if you're new, if you're young, what's the advice? And the sad reality is there's a lot of fake mining that goes on in capital markets. And it goes back to what Rick talks about. If he had just concentrated the positions on the serially successful entrepreneurs, he would have been better off. And so it's particularly true when the market is in a bear. You've got to focus on quality. As the market progresses and we move from this is for real to everybody's a genius, the best performers are going to be the fake miners. So it just depends what you want, what you're looking for. If you want safety and security, stick with royalty companies and large producers. I think we're in a phase right now, the best companies are going to be companies like Vizsla Silver that, nobody wants to own a developer. Everyone's going to want to buy one. And Mike's got a project. It's one of the best projects in the world, very unique. And so those are the types of companies you want to focus on, but it just depends on what you're looking for. If you want outsized returns, take on risk. So it's really, individual.
Thank you all for sharing this time with us today. Let's give them a round of applause for our panelists. The next generation.